Hey, everybody. So I wanted to do a quick overview of what we're doing in live class today. We're still on standard 2, but we're going to be looking at 2C, which is talking about colonial self-governance. That means where the colonies start to govern themselves and make decisions that's for their own best interests. And it's going to happen during a period where England sort of relaxes the rules and relaxes the navigation acts. In this period where they sort of relax that and they aren't really minding the colonies and what they're doing is referred to as salutary neglect. So think about what the word neglect means, right? It means you're not paying attention to something like you should. So England is showing salutary neglect towards the colony. So we're going to be talking about that during this little mini lesson. Let me go through some stuff that you don't need. Okay, so just a little background info for you. So in England, during this time, okay, the current king of England at the time, his name was James II, and he is Catholic, and he sort of thinks he's the real deal, right? He doesn't like to answer to anybody, including his own parliament. And so much so, and just so you know, Parliament in England is like our Senate and House of Representatives in the United States, right? It's their Congress. So James II, he didn't like answering to anybody, and he does not meet with his Parliament and keeps a very tight hold on the colonies and what kind of taxes that they have to pay and what they can do with trade. Think about mercantilism and the navigation acts. Like, he's really got a tight hold on the colonies on what they can and cannot do. But remember, now we said he's Catholic, and the Protestants that live in England don't like that. They don't like the way he's this supreme ruler who doesn't, answer to anybody, right? He has too much power. So the Protestants in England start a revolution. It's called the Glorious Revolution. To overthrow James. And long story short, they do overthrow James, and they install a new king and queen, William and Mary, okay? And that's them on the bottom picture. They're Protestant, okay? And then the new prime minister that comes into office, and the prime minister would be the guy that's like, you have a king of England, right? And then you have the prime minister, and he's kind of the leader who makes sure that all the government stuff is happening the way it should, right? He's all about the politics. So the new prime minister under William and Mary starts this period, what we call salutary neglect in the colonies. And he is going to relax the rules. He's not really going to check and make sure the colonists are following all the rules when it comes to trade and different things like that. So that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen over a period of time in the colonies, right? And the colonists are going to get used to it, right? Well, the King of England isn't telling us what to do. Nobody's telling us. So we're going to kind of make some decisions on our own. And that's what's going to happen. So I'm sorry, this slide is kind of not centered. I couldn't get the whole picture. So salutary neglect is an allowance of self-rule, okay? And this prime minister, Robert Walpole, is going to relax those strict regulations. Think back to mercantilism and the navigation acts, right, where the colonists can only trade with England. He's going to relax those rules, okay? And one of the reasons he's going to relax them is because he thinks it's going to increase trade and production, which would ultimately benefit England, right? He's like, look, if we back off a little bit on the colonists, right, they're probably going to work harder and do more, and it'll increase the amount of money and power for England anyway. So England is going to practice salutary neglect until about the 1760s. So you guys think about this. This is like 60 or 70 years of the colonists being able to make some decisions on their own. And when you've been doing something for 60 or 70 years, you get used to that, right? You get used to making your own decisions. So how is it going to benefit the colonists? Well, one of the things I want you to think about is the distance between England and the colonies. Y'all, it's over 4,000 miles, okay? It takes a long time for information to get from England to the colonies. So that distance really sort of helps push along this idea of the colonists governing themselves, right? I mean, because there's such a distance between them. And the governing bodies that are going to sort of develop out of this time of salutary neglect are going to help the colonists ultimately push for independence later on during the American Revolution. So each colony has a governor and a governing body. Okay, so that picture down below, that's probably the governor standing up. And then you have this governing body. And hopefully you notice from the picture that the governing body in the colonies are going to be made up of white males, and they're going to have to own land, and they're going to have to be elected. Okay, now, where did the first elected legislature in the colonies originate? Well, remember which was the first colony, right? That was Virginia. So it goes to say that the first elected legislature, right, or governing body in the colonies is going to be in Virginia. And this body was called the House of Burgesses. Okay. Now, if you go into Standard 2 video links in Canvas, you will find a video that I show in live class about the House of Burgesses that you can watch. But the House of Burgesses, this governing body, is going to create policies, decide how much taxes are going to be charged, different things like that. Okay. Another governing body that I want to talk about is the Mayflower Compact. Now, the Mayflower Compact, if you look at the date here for House of Burgesses, is 1619. Okay. 1620, the Pilgrims come over, and they are going to come up with a governing body, but it's going to be a little different. Okay. The Pilgrims get off the Mayflower. They step foot in what'll be Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts. There's no governing body. There's no king. There's no president, nothing like that. How are they going to get things done, right? How are they going to guarantee that everybody that lives in Massachusetts colony is going to be willing to work together for the good of the colony? And they are going to come up with a compact or an agreement. Okay. It's a document, baby. Basically, a compact is a document. And this document, everybody signs and says, we're going to agree to follow this compact or this contract. So when somebody says, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're not going to do, everybody that lives in that colony is going to agree to it. So the Mayflower Compact was not an elective legislative body like the House of Burgesses. It was a document, and everybody signed it and agreed to follow it like a contract. Okay, so know the difference between the House of Burgesses in Virginia and the Mayflower Compact in Massachusetts colony. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and talk about Bacon's Rebellion. There is a video about Bacon's Rebellion, so I want you to go into the Standard 2 video links and watch it. And a couple of questions I want you to look at are, why was Nathaniel Bacon and other Virginia colonists so angry? Okay, think about the fact that Nathaniel Bacon was an indentured servant, and then when he earns his freedom, he moves out to the frontier. Okay, and he's upset with the governing body, right, in Virginia. And then explain how this supports the idea of government representing all the people, not just the rich. Okay, long story short, as you watch the video and you read about Nathaniel Bacon and what happens, he and his followers are going to burn Jamestown to the ground. Okay, the rebellion is going to collapse. Nathaniel Bacon's going to get sick and die, so it's going to collapse. But why ultimately is this rebellion important? Because it's the first example in the colonies that we have of rebellion against the government. Okay, we know a big rebellion is going to happen later on, but this is the first instance of rebellion against the government in the colonies, and the expectation of the people that the government needs to work for everybody, rich, poor alike. It doesn't matter. The government needs to work for everybody.